So CLGU, they have that first pick, getting rid of that as well. These guys, they know exactly what they need to get rid of, because Rengar and Stanley also pretty devastating. But one of the things that I think is really interesting between these two teams is CLGU, like, very well known for their late game and how, you know, they really pick for those late game strategies and can just dominate in that regard. But Taipei Assassins as well, they have one of the best defensive playing games in the world. They're also very good on the offense. But when Toys is playing on, you know, Orianna or Karthus or Anivia, he can just shut down the game early on, and they're really good at reactionary play. So it's going to be interesting to see, you know, if either of these teams are able to land any early aggression, or if it does kind of stretch out into one of those late game games.
Well, one of the things too is Anivia is a champion that has been played by both Toys as well as Froggen. Both of them very well known for the champion. Being banned out by one side means that they don't want the other one getting at that one, as well as Zyra, Diana. You mentioned Rengar already being banned out. So these teams, they've done their research. They know what they want to, what they don't want the other team to have, and they know what they're going to be looking out for. We could right away for CLGU snatching away Ezreal as the first pick.
Yeah, it's definitely a strong one. I was kind of thinking that they would go for the Kog'Maw. That's, you know, one of Yellow Pete's favorite champions, and it really works well with that CLGEU style. But we'll see where they go. I'm curious if with the Ezreal, if they're going to go with kind of a kiting and poke in style, it might go with the Lee Sin. Versus World Elite, I only caught the tail end of those games, but you know, from what I could tell and from what I had heard, Froggen with Lee Sin was unbelievable. In every single team fight, he would just be able to dive into the back line and take out Wei Xiao, which is really impressive and could kind of bode disaster for Bebe in the series.
One of the things that TPA did was ban out Zyra, so I think that Kog'Maw pickup was a little more hesitant without the support Zyra that Krepo's been running in the bottom lane with Yellow Pete. So taking the Ezreal away, of course, that of course limits BB's champion pool by just a little bit. If they are going to be playing something like a Vayne in that bottom lane, Ezreal has a lot of poke and harass that can go very well. See Froggen hovering over Lulu here, that would go really great to harass out whatever AD carries me put into that bottom lane. Snoopy picking up Skarner, that's another devastating pickup for the CLGU lineup.
Well, Lulu, all in all, has been the support for the tournament. I mean, she has so much harass. The lane presence that she provides is really strong, and then she does, you know, help with the support as well. But Taipei Assassins, they're actually going with a Caitlyn Nunu comp, and we've seen this a lot from a couple of different teams. We saw them run it successfully earlier, I believe, in CLG NA. They've been running it a lot, but definitely some really strong picks. And Stanley, I love his Olaf play. It's really my favorite champion of his that he plays. His Rengar, and we've seen his Elise as well, are both very strong. But Olaf, he just has so much damage early on the game. The base damage is so high that roaming out of the, that top lane, it really is very strong in those early game team fights and can just completely be a game changer.
Something that I'm looking for here is there's no top laner picked up for either side. But there could be a top lane Olaf, it could be a jungle Olaf as well. You actually brought up beforehand when the teams were just warming up. Stanley was playing a lot of Lee Sin, and that's still on the table. That's a possibility for both Froggen as well as Taipei Assassin. They are going to go at Mundo now, so we do know it's jungle Mundo with top lane Olaf, and that does still leave Lee Sin on the table, although we still have a top lane and a mid lane that need to be picked up for CLGEU. Of course, Aurelia's been banned out, Wicked's favorite of all-time champion, I believe. However, there's still a lot of other pieces still on the table. We could go with Rumble, which we've seen CLGEU running a lot more.
Or Malphite as well. You know, we've seen a number of champions in the past from Wicked. With the champions that are remaining, I'm kind of curious because I'm not sure exactly who they think that Mistake is, or I'm sorry, who they think Toys is going to be using, but I don't know, they maybe want to take away that Karthus pick. It could be really strong against the, you know, kind of frontline diving team that TPA has with both Mundo and Olaf. Could, you know, try and shut them down a little bit. But, you know, the Caitlyn will be a little bit concerned. Yeah, the Lux definitely very strong. And, you know, we've seen so far this tournament how strong Lux has been. And she has great sieging potentials, but also defensive capabilities very similar to Anivia. And there's actually that Malphite pick, which I definitely think is one of Wicked's stronger picks. And it's also very strong in the 1v2 lane. And he's used that in that lane a lot.
And of course, with Lulu on the team, we all know the synergy between the Unstoppable Force and the Wild Growth. How everybody's basically being knocked out twice in a row. That's going to get a lot of CC from the team of CLGEU, while Ezreal and Lux from the backline are going to be able to poke and prod away relatively safely. That's going to provide a lot of crowd control. So not only do they have to break through the tanky line of that Malphite, not only are they going to have to get around Snoopy Skarner, but then they're going to have to chase after a team that's been kiting them after they've been slowed by the after effects of that Lulu ultimate, after they've been ground slammed and seismic sharded away by that Malphite. There's a lot of potential here, and you did call the Karthus pickup coming out from TPA.
Yeah, I actually thought it was going to be on CLG EU, but it is one of Toys' stronger picks. So I was curious whether or not they would use it. I thought it might be a little bit an issue because Karthus can't shut down Ezreal, but he will work versus the rest of the team. So that's going to be a really strong lane matchup for them. And one of the things when they're running this Karthus, you know, a lot of the times, Toys, he's very aggressive about leaving that mid lane and roaming down into some of the other lanes. Karthus tends to be a little bit more stationary, but the ult really helps out a lot. And if he is running that teleport, he can put on a lot of pressure. But the pressure mostly is going to come from Lil Balls. So these lanes, these are lanes that are going to isolate themselves. Caitlyn and Nunu, they're going to be comfortable laning against Ezreal and Lulu in that bottom lane. And then Stanley on Olaf, he's going to be comfortable in that top lane as well. He has a favorable matchup there. And then it's going to be about Lil Balls trying to counter out Snoopy and trying to see, all right, where is Snoopy going to be ganking? I'll be there first, and then just use my the strong early damage from Mundo to try and win those exchanges. Though Skarner does also have very strong early damage.
That's true as well. But also, when you were mentioning beforehand, they might do a lane swap here. Both Olaf and Malphite are going to be strong 1v2 laners.
Yes.
However, if Snoopy is going to be, what we've seen a lot in this tournament is the team that usually does the 1v2 lane swap initially is the team that usually camps that lane with the jungler to try to get the 3v1 dive. Dr. Mundo can recognize when Snoopy is going to be going for that. Since Skarner is not the most powerful early ganker in the game, he could go in and counter jungle away a lot of that jungle. We've seen Snoopy on Skarner just earlier in the tournament get completely shut down by an Olaf who was going into the jungle and trying to steal away his farm. Although in classic CLG EU style, they stalled out long enough for him to become relevant.
Yeah, that could be a serious concern for them, but if Snoopy does get off to a good start, that's going to be really dangerous for Toys in particular in that mid lane. So they're going to want to get really good ward coverage. That's something we always see from the Type A Assassins is their fantastic ward coverage across the map and just the presence from Lil Balls. But the Lux Bind with the Skarner ult, like that's a really dangerous combo, and they're looking for those quick pick-off kills. And so CLG EU, their team, it will do fairly well throughout the entire game, but definitely a little bit more of an early game team. I mean, it has that great quick pick-off potential to try and snowball from, and that's definitely what they're going to be looking to do. Type A Assassins, on the other hand, they just want to shut down those lanes and out-farm CLG EU.
One thing you brought up was the great ward coverage that Type A Assassins bring to a game. One thing that CLG EU also brings to a game are those early Oracle elixirs. Actually, Little Balls does it as well on his junglers, but it's going to be a battle for vision, and that's what's going to that's basically what I think is going to make it be a very long game. Both of these teams are going to be struggling for positioning battles. Both of them don't want to get in engagements that they can't possibly win. On the side of TPA, they picked up that Karthus, who although he might not have the most fun time in lane, he has that wall of pain, which not only he can use on the offense, but defensively, if CLG EU starts an engagement, they could split up the squishy champions that want to get that kite from their tanky front line, and they could disassemble one or the other just from that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, like you said, Karthus and Nunu, it's going to provide a lot of protection for Bebe in that backline. And so, assuming they can control those fights, that's going to work in their favor. But CLG EU, they're looking to grab people outside of those fights. They're looking to pick people off. And that's going to come down to map control from ward coverage, but also protecting the oracles early on. So Snoopy and Lil Balls, they both need to grab that early oracles and then just be able to hold on to it. We've seen a lot of times, Lil Balls, because he's just so aggressive and trying to constantly pressure the map, he'll get the oracles very early in the game, but then he'll lose it. He'll get caught out of position, and that always kind of sets TPA behind a little bit. It stalls them for a couple of minutes and doesn't allow them to use quite the same aggression, but we'll see where they go. We are actually back in the game, and one of the interesting things, talking about that ward coverage, Nunu's starting off with just a ton of wards, a pink ward in particular, so really looking for some early warding so that they can keep an eye on what CLG is doing.
All consumables build from Nunu, so he's just going to be going around the map, as you mentioned, already trying to establish that map control. Level 1 fight, though, we're going to have to see what does work out. Mundo, of course, doesn't necessarily want to get those cleavers at level 1, although he can offer an additional slow to that undertow. Caitlyn tries, well, look out there. Toy's going to get caught out by Frog, and he's going to have to burn the flash. Ignite taken away. First blood does go to CLG EU. Now Stanley looking like he's in a bad place, but he is going to back away.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird catch-off from Toys. It's right around the corner. It's kind of a choke point. And so the Lightbind coming from the shadows, really impressive play from Froggen there to take advantage of that. And then Stanley and Lil Balls both trying to get some damage, but not quite enough at that early stage. So quick kill. Ezreal picks up the kill, which is kind of scary. And Nunu Caitlyn, that's a very safe lane, and it seems like they're actually going to be laning top, but that could put a lot of pressure on Olaf in the bot lane if they decide to stick with that swap, or maybe they'll just go send Caitlyn and Nunu bot, and they're actually looking for a blue invade potentially on Taipei Assassins.
We'll have to see here. They are actually going in as 4 members. Olaf, in the meantime, going over towards their own blue list and potentially trying to take that one away from Skarner in the jungle. He is a little bit more blue reliant than some junglers out there. Olaf, in the meantime, going into that 1v2 lane, he'll be able to spam those undertows, make sure he can wave clear to his fullest potential as long as he steals that blue buff or takes that blue buff away from his own side.
So they are going to control both blues, and that, I mean, really it completely negates almost the Ezreal advantage. Ezreal is still going to be tough to deal with, but Olaf with that blue buff can lane against anybody. He doesn't have the teleport to get himself quickly back into the lane, but it's still going to be a strong matchup for him. And they don't have a ward over there, so CLG EU don't have vision over there. Skarner's going to be a little bit behind as a result because they're controlling both of the blues early game. So really impressive play from TPA. And now they could actually go for a really aggressive early tower with this top lane. Bebe mistake, they're going to be able to zone Wicked a little bit. And one of the strengths of Malphite in the 1v2 is his AoE clearing potential, but the range harass from Caitlyn is usually a little bit too strong, and they could try and go for a turret.
Snoop, in the meantime, is walking through this mid lane. He is going to go over to try to counter jungle away from Mundo, but he's going to pass right by a ward. TPA might know what's going on, but CLGU also has a ward. Just going to get the smite down on Big Wraith and then walk back to his own side.
Yeah, so he gets it out really quickly. Mundo and Skarner, I don't think they want to do duel with each other that much early on in the game. They both have a lot of damage, and it's going to be kind of more dependent on what the mids are doing. And so right now, Froggen's at going to be at a slight advantage early on. Karthus will struggle a little bit to leave that lane, but we'll see where they go with this. Caitlyn, Nunu, they are pushing into that tower. So now that Lil Balls is back, he's going to buy some items. He could make his way up there, which means that Snoop, he's going to want to keep an eye on it. And you see, he's heading right up for that tri-bush. So perfect positioning from him. Lil Balls might not come there, but at least he's keeping an eye on Malphite.
And that is one thing that CLGU is going to do. Now that they know there's a lane swap going on, they're going to let Yellow Pete farm the bottom lane. They're not necessarily known to push those towers as aggressively as other teams do with this 2v1 swap up. Olaf down there, he's going to have a decent time farming against this lane because of that blue buff, but Snoopy is going to keep tabs on Wicked in the top lane. They don't want that top tower falling quick to the Taipei Assassins, so they could swap it back up and have Yellow Pete have that contestation from the farm of the enemy AD carry. So Snoopy putting a little bit of pressure, not necessarily pressure, but just keeping his eyes peeled for Wicked up there. We could potentially see that be a contention point.
But Froggen coming mid, Lil Ball's coming mid. He has that double buff. It's usually pretty difficult to get that Mundo gank off. The bind from Froggen gets him out of there. A couple of cleaves, no, Lil Ball's just backing off. So I think for the most part, he was just sitting mid and waiting for Skarner to come in, see if they were going to try anything on Karthus. But because Lux moved up so close to the tower, he decided he might go on it, and he's actually coming right down to the bottom lane. CLG EU haven't responded yet. Olaf is here. They have a lot of damage if they can close this.
Yellow Pete, though, with that first blood goal, getting the Ignite down on the Lil Balls of Mundo. Arcane shifting forward. Is he going to get the kill? Ignite, I don't think is going to be enough, but Stan Lee also being very, very low in that fight.
And Karthus trying for the teleport, but cancels it mid-fight. Wicked and Snoopy up top, and Bebe just chasing him down. We'll be able to get some harass there, but there's the slow, the flash in on Snoopy, trying to get on Bebe, and he's very low. If they can get in range, one more Q, but they can't get into him. But a mistake, he's actually chasing down Wicked a little bit, and with the ranged attack from Bebe, I think they're going to get it. If he gets this red buff, that could be devastating. The flash, get it, one more snowball, but he doesn't quite have the mana for it. And so Wicked, almost going down the Q as well, but the minions
kills
take down Bebe.
Wow, that was just excellent orchestrating by CLGU in that top lane. You saw Wicked stutter step, body block Nunu, turn around with the seismic shard, slow him down so he couldn't get in range for that ice blast on Snoopy. Caitlyn, one auto attack from killing Wicked, saves the flash from the absolute last second. Just about 10 HP left on Malphite in that fight. And Caitlyn, a little bit too far. CLG's strongest ally, the minions, taking one for the team.
Yeah, fortunately, no one got that kill, but imagine now if what the situation they would be in if Bebe was able to pick up that red or almost that double, and actually Froggen able to steal that Wraith, so congratulations to him. That's always a big success, and everyone will kind of go back to their lanes, but so far an early advantage for CLGEU from the nice play down in that bottom lane, and in the that first kill on Toys.
I'm actually impressed to see as we pan to that bottom lane, Yellow Pete and Crepo putting a lot of pressure on this tower against Stanley, so they could B, just identifying the fact that he had that blue buff early on, 22 CS compared to Wicked's 15 in the top lane. They may be the ones that want to get this farm advantage early on, but they might want to push that tower down, trying to race BB a mistake in this top lane, making sure that when that lane swap goes down, it's going to be on even footing, so both their top laners on either side are going to have that lane that they can each farm at, and it won't be at a disadvantage for their team.
Well, and even if no one got a kill on Bebe earlier on when he died to the minions, he's still behind in levels. He just hit level 4, whereas Malphite is level 5, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him to harass him down, particularly since Malphite went for that tabby. So Malphite should be able to AoE clear a lot of those minions and stall that. But then you also have to consider Yellow Pete's ahead of him as well, so when they finally do go back for a lane swap, it could be at a disadvantage to Type A assassins. So you know, we'll kind of have to keep an eye on what they do there. Bebe taking a couple of shots from that turret when trying to harass Wicked, and that's really dangerous in that lane.
He's got to be really careful, especially because Malphite has that shield as his passive. He's going to be able to absorb 1 or 2 of those shots from Caitlyn, maybe 1 if it's only a headshot. I think what he's trying to do is get that harassment from headshot down, but Wicked's doing a really good job of dancing back and forth between tower range. With that headshot ready in prime, Caitlyn doesn't want to waste that on just hitting a minion that's at full HP, getting that shield down so she can harass underneath the tower. But Wicked, like we said, doing a great job just staying within that tower range, so when Caitlyn right-clicks on him, he's going to be taking a tower shot in response.
And with that really strong wave bottom, a couple more hits on that turret, they're actually winning or actually it's basically even in that poke battle for both turrets, both the top and bottom almost going down. But you know, we'll have to see how both of the mids start to get more involved in the game. Toys, he did use his teleport earlier and canceled it, so it's back up again. It's a shorter cooldown when you cancel, so definitely a good play on his part. And he's starting to try and take those wraiths, but we'll see if Froggen allows him. He does get the big wraith, and Froggen, you know, he has that range. Can he get the blue? No, just barely not able to take it. Doesn't quite have vision, just going for the blind steal, and Karthus will be able to grab that.
Yeah, one of the points that we're going to have to take a look at is when these, as you mentioned before, having Froggen take away that big wraith from Snoopé. When these mid laners start fighting over the wraiths, it's going to be a huge bonus to either side. Both of them are going to be very, very heavy in farm. Karthus, of course, known as the champion that can sit in the mid lane and get 300 CS by 20-something minutes into the game. Lux is kind of in the same boat because she could just sit back, use that ultimate, her laser, to clear out waves, use that E, as we see, not only to harass Karthus in the mid lane, but also to take away those wraiths from him. If she gets a CS advantage on Karthus, he's going to be more inclined to stay in that lane and try to farm up, whereas Froggen doesn't really have to move that far to roam and use that R. But then again, Karthus is the R bot when it comes to ultimates.
Yeah, and now we see actually the bot lanes swapping down again. So TPA, they are bot lane, and there is a slight experience advantage for CLG EU. Yellow Pete, he's a half level ahead, and he's going to get a couple more minions here. He stayed in lane as they were pushing it into the turret, so he's safe without Krepo there. But you know, now that Krepo's here, they could try and harass them some. And Little Ball is actually coming down with Karthus. They have a lot of damage early game. They should be able to take this dragon very quickly, but they have to watch out for Skarner and Lux coming in to steal it.
They get the vision there from the True Shot Barrage. We're going to see if CLG EU tries to make a move on this, and yes, they do. Froggen moves in from mid lane right past the ward with Snoopé, and they realize that CLG EU trying to contest this. Muno took a brunt of the damage from that True Shot Barrage as well as tanking the dragon, so they are going to have to back off for now. CLG EU put a ward down there, but I believe that's a pink ward TPA has by the Dragon Pit, so this could potentially be a ward down and more denial of vision to CLG.
Yeah, they will be able to take it, but they're holding on to it for the moment because they know CLG is keeping an eye on it. They don't want to get themselves caught out of position. But like you said, Lil Ball's taking a little bit too much damage. There's a quick burst from Bebe on Yellow Pete. He's barely able to arcane shift out of that Piltover Peacemaker, and they are pushing into him once again.
Ooh,
Bebe
Froggen
close.
moving in the jungle here. Little Balls dodges the light binding, but there's the ultimate. He does have to use this flash to get out of there. Wants to get this red buff down. Will secure the smite with Karthus coming in, and that's a quick little save there.
Yeah, really nice play, and he is going for that same early build that we've seen from him a lot of times with the double Dorans. It allows him to go, you know, mostly wards, you know, not really itemized that deep like you would see like with a Warmogs or Spirit Visage or anything like that, but it makes him really tanky early on in those fights and able to protect the rest of his team. So, you know, we'll see what kind of pressure he puts on with there. Not a lot of ward coverage, but I think both of these junglers, you know, both of the teams, they're not really that concerned with the jungler presence so far, and they have enough just to keep an eye on the map.
You talked about TPA doing that lane swap of putting the AD carry, and even though they're a bit of an experience disadvantage in that bottom lane, let's take a look at what Yellow Pete decided to buy on one of his first trips back. Doran's Blade, BF Sword. This guy's got really, really big swords, and he just wants to go in there, get that burst damage down. That's also the first blood gold that CLGU has. So that lane swap before either tower went down, a little bit of a scared defensive measure coming out from Taipei Assassins.
Yeah, and I really like the BF Sword on Ezreal because it allows him to keep up with the damage that Caitlyn has. He has the attack speed buff from his passive that kind of, you know, works against the Nunu buff. But the better thing is the fact that CLG EU doesn't have the best team for getting in the face of Yellow Pete. He should be able to get away from Mundo and Olaf pretty easily. And so we actually see Little Balls almost getting caught out here. We have them come down. They will be able to force them back, and Snoopy's here as well. He will be able to come in the bot and see if they can maybe grab someone.
Well, both junglers with those early Oracle's elixirs, about 10 minutes into the game, they've been acquired. Snoopy making his way around the jungle in the river, clearing out those wards from Taipei Assassins. A little trade between Stanley and Wicked here towards the mid lane, but Taipei Assassins grouping up his 3. Karthus puts on the wall of pain. They might catch CLG here.
Yeah, but it's a dangerous spot for them. They actually throw the bind on the Little Balls. He drops very quickly the Ezreal as well. Stanley's in a dangerous spot, but I think he's going to be able to get out of there with his ultimate. And Mistake is alone in the middle of that team. He will go down. A double kill for Wicked in that situation. And now they can transfer over to the Dragon and take that early advantage. 3-0 so far. That's going to build into a 3K gold lead for CLG EU.
That's 2 kills to none in that engagement. There's an Oracle's elixir down. They've cleared out the wards around this Dragon, and they're going to take it. That's a massive advantage in this early game for CLG EU. And no one really expects Froggen's Lux to deal that much burst damage. All he has is a Chalice of Harmony. You saw how low everybody from Taipei Assassins got. They grouped up, went around that Karthus wall of pain, thinking that they can get the jump on CLG. That Lux laser tore through all 3 members through the river, and it just decimated them.
Yeah, and it's kind of surprising. Mundo, he's not that tanky yet, so for them to try and force a fight, and knowing that Karthus was being zoned by Lux coming into that situation, they didn't have enough damage to take him down. They grabbed the bot turret, so nice play from CLG EU, continuing to put the pressure onto the Taipei Assassins. But I'm a little bit surprised that Little Balls and Mistake actually tried to force that situation, because it really didn't seem to their benefit.
I think Taipei Assassins really wanted to get that first Dragon of the game, and they were just a little overzealous with the pressure they were putting on CLGU to back them off of it. Everything, though, kind of going in sequence for CLG at this point. They won that team fight. They didn't lose anybody. Cleared out the wards, got the Dragon. We saw as mid lane over there where Karthus was clearing out some minions. It's about half HP, that tower. Wouldn't be surprised to see CLGU make their next target that mid lane. TPA is going to respond by taking this top tower soon if Snoopy is not able to clear out all these minions. But Stanley really wants to get that down and get his team a little bit more forward map presence to establish them in this game.
Yeah, and it's been interesting. We actually haven't seen that much Skarner so far this tournament, because for a long time now, he's been one of the strongest map control junglers for a while. We've seen a lot of Mundo, mostly from Little Balls, but the pressure that Skarner puts around the map, the mobility is definitely very strong. Another steal attempt from Froggen, not quite able to get it, but still, the second he hits one of those, that's going to be a big advantage.
Not to mention the fact that they cleared all the minions in his wave with that too, so he still got himself a hunk of gold for his efforts. He is also going to be able to pick up his own blue, so he's not that sad that he wasn't able to get the enemy's blue. Would apply, a little bit more of an advantage for his team, but he's going to return to lane with Karthus, and they're going to sit back and forth and farm with one another. We did see actually Caitlyn returning to her base at this point in time, picking up a BF sword, trying to match that damage output coming from Ezreal. Although Yellow Pete, I don't think he's gone back, but he has gone back once in order to get those Berserker's Greaves, but he still should have a decent chunk of gold from all those objectives that CLG just took.
Yeah, he has a little bit, but still farming. He was able to grab the Vamp Scepter, and I think the early AD item is really going to help him out, particularly against some of the tanks that Taipei Assassins have, and the fact that he needs to be able to take on Olaf if Olaf is diving on him in the back line, and Mundo as well. So having that damage is going to help.
From Little Balls, Wicked, actually the shield's been popped by BB, but they're going to back off as they see Crepo is waiting in the bush down there.
Yeah, Snoopy's actually coming down. Little Ball is close to wandering into him. Wicked's here as well with the ultimate, could potentially use it, but will back off. Wasn't sure that they had the same sustained damage considering it's versus Caitlyn, and in the meantime, Stanley actually zoning off Ezreal some in that top lane, but they're comfortable with that 1v1. They just want Yellow Pete to, kind of hold on to Stanley up there.
It's interesting, though, because this is let Caitlyn really come back into the farm for this game. 103 CS compared to 102. We saw how Stanley will jump on Yellow Pete any chance given. He wants to get this farm as it pushes in towards the tower, but Stanley was doing a good job of kind of freezing the lane towards the middle, so it's actually denying Yellow Pete a little bit more CS. They're not in a rush to touch down this tower if they know that they can get Caitlyn some sort of advantage over Ezreal.
And the Wraith Wars have started mid. Froggen getting some pressure up there. Ezreal just using his ult to clear some of those waves, but Froggen was able to steal another Wraith camp from TPA. So, if he can start to do that, try and get ahead of Toys in that mid lane, that would definitely help them out a lot. But the single target burst from Lux right now is just insane. And everyone right now is weak enough to basically be one shot from Froggen if they can catch them off. So, CLGU might start putting on some pressure because of it, but, for really definitely want to get out some wards so that they can have those opportunities.
And while Yellow Pete's away, Stanley will take that top lane any day. While there's a gaggle of Taipei Assassins grouping up in the mid lane, Lil Balls is going to go back, secure his own red buff. Taipei Assassins now at that tower down. Might be getting a little confident, trying to put a little pressure back onto CLG EU, but just look at the damage that Froggen's able to put onto BB, taking away about a quarter of his HP from one spell from Lux. They're going to have to be really careful. Froggen may not have a Nivea, but Lux is also a great champion deterring these pushes from enemy teams.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult to push into a Lux. So a lot of times you need to see those kind of split push strategies. They have a team that can control multiple, or TPA has a team that can control multiple lanes at once. So, that's one of the strengths of Olaf, Karthus, and, Caitlyn and Nunu. They can all shut down whichever lane they're in. And so that's going to allow them to kind of counter out that Lux a little bit. They won't have to lane against Froggen that much, but it's still going to slow them down a little bit. And it's really just, a controlled game right now. Both of these teams waiting for their opportunities. But Stanley caught off in the bot. If Snoopy actually comes down for it, he's dueling with Wicked a little bit, and Snoopy not coming in from behind, doesn't really know where he is, but is able to grab a ward on his way.
Yeah, clearing out the ward. I think they knew that Stanley knew exactly what was up with Snoopy coming in, so clearing out the ward and backing off, Wicked applying a little pressure like they wanted to feign the gank anyway. Little Balls actually bought a second Oracle's Elixir, so he is spending a lot of money trying to clear out these wards. Only double Doran's shields compared to the double GP10 items that Snoopy has, in addition to his CS lead. So, bottom lane though, Stanley and Wicked still trading back and forth with one another. Little Balls looked like he wanted to motion down, but deciding against it.
Yeah, the sustained damage from Olaf at this point should be enough for him to beat Wicked in that situation. He actually gets some really nice harass with his true damage there. But Caitlyn and Nunu heading back up top again. Everyone's just kind of comfortable with controlling their own lanes and just trying to farm back into it. And so CLG, they have a slight advantage, but it's really not that significant at this point. There hasn't been any sizable recognition for it. But we'll see what they start to do, particularly once Lux finishes a Rabadon's potentially, because Ezreal, he's just finished his Bloodthirster. He wants to get a couple of stacks on it, and Lux finally has a lot of damage. And that's really a key point for them. And not to mention the Sunfire Cape on Wicked, that actually is going to open up a lot of opportunities for them to potentially force fights and maybe just bully them off of this mid turret or force a dive.
Well, that mid turret for Taipei Assassin even
Little Balls real quick.
Ooh, Krepo actually sniping him away there as Froggen came in from the side as well. Now Krepo with a red buff. That's a double slowing Lulu. That's a scary prospect.
And Froggen just sitting in the shadows. That's the quick burst damage. He's able to take him down almost immediately. CLG EU off of this, they're going to be able to push a dragon. And Stanley, he's actually trying to group back with his team. Wicked's right behind him, so they might be caught out a little bit there. But Karthus and everyone, they're kind of sitting around cautiously. They grab the dragon, and we'll be able to back off safely.
Another Oracle's Elixir down on the side of Taipei Assassins as well. So Mundo has spent about 800 gold on trying to clear out wards, not counting any pink wards he's decided to buy. Still a lot of items behind Snoopy's Skarner. You see Krepo and Snoopy just walking around trying to contest his blue buff. Looks like Wiggler's coming in from the side. Now they're actually deciding to dive onto this mid tower. BB's got in a bad spot. He's going to get impaled there. Yellow Pete will wind up taking down the tower, has to flash away. BB is going to get down by Yellow Pete. Here comes the Karthus ultimate though, but there's the Lulu ultimate on Snoopy, so it looks like he's going to be okay. Krepo though might go down. His toys with the Defile is going to tick away. Wicked very low, gets stuck by the wall of paint, is going to get taken out by Karthus there, but now Stanley is extremely low. Yellow Pete, he's in a 3v1. He might take down all of Taipei Assassins.
They have to back off, but if Froggen can get another bind, he gets a slow. Little Balls goes down. There's the Ezreal ult as well, trying to pick up Mistake, can't quite grab him, but Caitlyn going down early on in that fight was absolutely perfect for them because CLG EU, they were all very high coming into that Karthus ultimate, which meant that he really wasn't able to get that much off of it, and Yellow Pete being up, once CLG EU was able to regroup back in that mid lane, they had a serious advantage against them. And then TPA trying to chase them down, all clumping up, coming into that mid lane. It set up Froggen perfectly for the ult.
And it looked like it was actually going to turn around there for Taipei Assassins. CLG EU did dive very deep into their own mid lane there, going as far as the second tower in order to get down BB's Caitlyn. Karthus' ultimate did a lot of damage to everyone, but Krepo's ultimate on the Skarner let him live. It also let all those people in the area that grouped up in the woods just get knocked up as well. Slowed after that, as you mentioned, the Froggen ultimate dealing a lot of damage in that situation. Then Yellow Pete, unscathed the entire fight, came in as the janitor.
And now Little Balls, he had lost his Oracles a while back. Mistake picks one up as well, so he can try and prevent some of that aggression from CLG EU. He's already found 3 wards himself, so he's able to grab a couple of there. But Little Balls, again, I talked about it coming into this game. he gets that early oracles, but a lot of times, because he's still trying to be aggressive in these fights, he'll lose it really quickly and put himself behind, which is kind of surprising, considering how strong of a jungler we've seen him to be. But we'll see whether or not CLG can take advantage of that. I mean, that's a 6K gold lead now, and it's even more significant considering that they lost their oracles.
Yeah, it's about 1,200 gold spent on oracles elixirs. One is still alive, a mistake, as you mentioned. You just picked that one up. But that's almost like a 6K gold lead when you factor everything in together. So CLG doing a really good job of being, they have what we would call basically a standard CLG EU comp, but they're still being extremely aggressive with it. 7 kills to 2. They have 2 towers down compared to the 1 that TPA Assassins have. And if you look at TPA's side, they're being extremely defensive. They're a little bit scared even to go as far as these raids. There's a ward going down from Yellowpea. He's trying to snipe away raids. He thinks he's frogging in the mid lane now. But CLG EU is just roaming all over TPA's jungle.
Yeah, I mean, they have complete control of this map right now. And TPA right now, they can't fight in the jungle considering how strong Froggen is, and Wicked as well. They can set up a really nice ultimate combination that'll just absolutely destroy them. Froggen trying to bind over the wall, can't quite hit it, but now Crepo and Yellowpea coming in as well. They're going to be able to drop this tower very quickly. Stanley moving in, but the tower is already down, and they've got some great pressure.
True Shot Barrage goes across, does hit Stanley for a decent chunk of damage, at Yellowpea missing the rest of the wave as well. Oh, the Froggen ultimate! There's the unstoppable force from Wicked. Yellowpea's on a rampage as he takes down Stanley, and it looks like CLGU is going to continue to pressure this mid lane.
The quick burst from Froggen is absolutely insane. If he's sitting in the shadows, he's able to catch out those bindings. Now they're pushing in for the mid. They're using all of their shields in order to tank the turrets, even though they don't really have that much armor yet, but it's working out perfectly for them. The Caitlyn trap trying to stall them a little bit, but right now, TPA, they can't fight them because Stanley's down, and CLGU just has such a huge advantage. The tower just a couple more shots away. That is the first base turret going down. The bind actually hitting onto Toys, and Snoopy coming in as well, gets the pullback. Now they have to deal with that Karthus AoE because Snoopy is going to go down. The Karthus ultimate as well. If Bebe can turn this around, this could be really big for TPA.
But he takes a chunk of damage there from Froggen, and he's going to hit him with the laser before he gets the ace in the hole. CLGEU turn this around 3 for 1. They lost their oracles, they lost their jungle, but they don't care. They're going to continue going in. Stanley activates Ragnarok, takes a chunk of damage, has to fall back from this one, and CLG is looking super strong.
Oh, Caitlyn, that's one of the weaknesses, is you're going to throw yourself off the Ezreal ult, trying to get Mistake. Can't quite kill him. He's able to get back into his fountain, but the inhibitor is down. Stanley just barely missing that binding, but Yellowpea, everyone, they're just all so strong at this point in the game. And then, TPA, they really can't deal with the Lux because CLGU as a team, they can kite, play very defensively, and TPA as a team that needs to dive in. There's another binding, Stanley almost going down.
He's standing right on top of a ward, and he still ran into it. That's just Froggen there with his pinpoint accuracy on Lux. CLGU now, they took 2 towers in that push. They took basically what seemed to be 1.5 team fights. They got down an inhibitor. They haven't yet gone back and picked up items now. We see Yellowpea finally returning back to base, has completed his Sheen, starting to build the pieces for his Zeal to complete that Trinity Force. Yep. Already has the Phage previously in Bloodthirster. Death Cap on Froggen. We already talked about the Sunfire Cape, now Negatron Cloak coming out from the side of Wicked. Aegis and the Legion acquired by Snoopy. They are really starting to come into those big money items, and they're already winning fights when they didn't have all these items.
And it's TPA is really struggling because they have a forward kind of bash your head against the wall team. They need to just send Mundo and Olaf right at them. Karthus needs to get right on top of the team as well, but it's allowing CLGEU to be reflexive, kite TPA in these fights, and then it sets up Froggen for a perfect bind. Crepo grabbing some more wards, wants to set up that dragon for them, but or that Baron for them, but they're not able to get, TPA can't get onto Yellowpea. He's just, Ezreal's just too safe of a champion. And then if they want to run to fight the rest of CLGEU, they can just kite into a binding from Froggen and just insta-kill someone.
Yeah, they've also acquired the Shrelia's Reverie, so if they do get engaged on by TPA Assassins, they don't see it very favorable. They can disengage with the Shrelia's, but the way they've been doing is they go and start a fight, they poke down at TPA Assassins, TPA Assassins engages, and then Froggen turns around with that ultimate with his binding and completely scatters TPA Assassin's initiation force. That Shrelia's Reverie, they can use it to disengage, but then immediately re-engage because they have, of course, the unstoppable force coming out from Wicked. That's an ultimate that's going to completely decimate TPA Assassins if they try to charge after them and group up.
Oh, the binding over the wall, Mistakes going down. There's a bit quick damage. The Malphite ult as well. He's actually able to flash out there, but the Ezreal ult almost grabbing him, and they're able to push up on this second turret.
Now CLG EU, they are going to wind up taking, there we go, the tower goes down in the bottom lane here. Now they're pressuring on yet another lane of Taipei Assassins. 11-3, it's about 25 minutes into the game, and Taipei Assassins, they're not really as strong as they should be at this point in time. They're not as strong as they would be when all these inhibitors are normally going down. They're going to have to defend that mid lane if it gets that way, but Froggen with a binding and a laser going to take out BB. He's down again. Tor's getting pulled out of the fight by Stupe. Yellowbee's going to get the kill there. Frog with a Lulu ult will finally be shut down. Karthus goes down in the fight, is going to wind up using the Requiem. No one on CLG EU is going to die. Now they're chasing after Stanley. He's going to go down. A mistake. You're the only one left from Taipei Assassins to defend against 4 raging members of CLG EU.
And that should be it for CLG EU in this fight. Olaf and Mundo both chasing down Froggen. So, you know, even with the cooldowns up for Lux, they felt that she was such a serious threat, and she was really the only one that they could touch. So they chased her down in the fight, left Yellowpea completely unfazed, and CLG EU, as they're taking the Nexus turret, they take down game number 1 against the world champions from Season 2. CLG EU are up 1-0 in the series.
They're just making it look easy. It must be something in the water in Europe. First, Fnatic takes a 2-0 against Taipei Assassins to send them to this loser's bracket match. Second off, CLG EU making it look kind of easy. What was it, a 15-4 victory they just got there? I mean,